The personality type INTP stands for introversion, intuition, thinking, and perception. The INTP is often known as the most intelligent personality type. Only 1 to 5% of the population is thought to be made up of INTPs. Famous INTPs you may be familiar with include Albert Einstein, Bill Gates, and Abraham Lincoln. However, despite their intelligence and other positive traits, there is a dark side to INTPs that isn't talked about nearly as much. Today on How to Charisma, we're going to look at 6 dark side traits of INTPs. Number 1. Difficulty empathizing. Because INTPs have a thinking trait rather than a feeling trait, INTPs value logic over emotions. However, this often means that they have a hard time empathizing with others. They can become easily frustrated with those who are emotionally needy and can sometimes even come across as being cold. This is because they expect others to act like themselves, behaving logically over emotionally, which isn't always realistic. To better understand how this plays out in the real world, let's take a look at how an INTP might react to a situation where a peer is looking for empathy from others. Let's say that this INTP is in a class that requires each student to give a presentation. One of the students, however, failed to prepare properly and gave a poor presentation, stumbling over the words and embarrassing themselves in front of the class. While other students will likely feel bad for this person because they embarrassed themselves, an INTP might react differently, responding with logic over emotion. Instead of feeling empathetic, the INTP may not feel bad for them much at all, instead looking at the situation from more of a logical point of view. They might feel that it was the student's fault for embarrassing themselves because they didn't prepare properly in the first place. While this response may come across as cold and unfeeling to others, to an INTP, this is a rational way of responding to a situation. This is because in their mind, the situation doesn't require an emotional response, as they may feel like emotions detract them from reality of the situation. Number 2. Suppressing emotions. As we just talked about, INTPs value thinking over feeling. At its core, this value system is not inherently a negative thing. After all, there are plenty of occasions in which suppressing emotions are useful. However, INTPs often suppress emotions when it would be better for them to express them. Over time, this could become unhealthy if emotions are consistently downplayed, as this leads to a buildup of negative emotions. If an INTP is upset about a breakup, for instance, they might minimize their feelings of loneliness or sadness and find ways to distract themselves from these emotions. They may pour their attention into thinking activities like work or school and force themselves to feel as little as possible. In general, it is good to let go of these emotions however you can, but there are situations where it may make more sense to let the feelings be instead of suppressing them. For INTPs, suppressing emotions may become second nature to them in a way. Another way in which INTPs might suppress emotions is if they feel like they should keep their feelings to themselves and let logic reign. If they were overlooked for a promotion at work and were upset about it, they might force themselves to look past their emotions and look at things from a strictly logical view. Obviously, looking at things logically is good, but in this situation, maybe they really were a better fit for the promotion and should ask their boss about it as opposed to just letting it be. If an INTP refuses to address their emotions and let them bottle up inside of them over weeks or even months, this can lead to resentment towards their boss or poor performance at work. Number 3. Procrastinators. As we've already discussed, INTPs are introverted, highly analytical, and can be obsessed with the details. While this can be a good thing in some situations, when an INTP is stressed or overwhelmed, these traits can lead to perfectionism. This in turn can cause overthinking, indecision, and ultimately procrastination because they get so bogged down by analyzing the details rather than thinking in terms of the big picture of things. Let's look at an example of how this might play out in the real world. Let's say, for instance, that an INTP is applying for a new job. In preparing their resume, they might become overly analytical and perfectionist about little details, such as the font, a description for one of their work experiences, or even the layout. They might go back and forth with different fonts and font colors, or agonize about which skills they should include. This might take so much of their time that by the time they've gotten their resume to a point where they're happy with it, the job deadline may have already passed. Note that this level of detail-orientedness goes beyond simple attention to detail. In the INTP's case, this level of obsessiveness is detrimental in that it can lead to analysis paralysis or inability to make a decision because of overthinking. This level of overthinking holds an INTP back rather than moving them forward. Number 4, lack of quality relationships. Because INTPs are introverted and have a hard time empathizing with others, this can lead to a lack of strong quality relationships. They often have low social batteries compared to other introverts, leading to them experiencing extreme introversion. An INTP might skip out on social engagements like friends' birthday parties, work events, or networking events because they know that going to such events will make them feel burnout and that it will require lots of time for them to recharge their batteries. However, unlike some introverts who might feel guilty for missing out on social events, INTPs often don't feel guilty for missing such events. This can be due to the fact that they have a hard time empathizing with others, so don't always understand how their absence in a social situation can be that hurtful to others. However, over time, this can result in a lack of quality relationships as INTPs can come across as not caring about others by prioritizing themselves over others. And because INTPs have a hard time empathizing and understanding why someone might feel hurt if they miss an important social engagement, they might be surprised when people they thought were friends suddenly stop calling or texting. But being an INTP, chances are they won't really be hurt over their friend ghosting them unless it was a close relationship. Number 5, hard on themselves. INTPs tend to overthink things, and because their minds are so attuned to the details, they can sometimes become control freaks. This can lead to them being hard on themselves and beating themselves up for something they did or a detail they missed. This is made worse by their introverted nature, which can cause them to be stuck in their head overanalyzing something they did rather than reaching out to a trusted friend for help. This can happen particularly with intellectual activities like school or work. Let's say, for example, that an INTP is taking a test at school and debating between 2 multiple choice answers. If they end up selecting the wrong answer, they might spend the rest of the day thinking about it and beating themselves up over it. They might be stuck in their head going back and forth about what made them choose that answer. Was it the way it was worded? Was it something about how they studied? Were they distracted by a random student who sneezed when they were taking the test? What they should do is forgive themselves for the mistake and move on. However, an INTP has the tendency to beat themselves up over this. Over time, this tendency to be hard on themselves could lead to feelings of insecurity and lack of confidence depending on the person. Number 6, underestimating others. Because they're so intelligent and intelligence comes naturally to INTPs, they might underestimate or underappreciate others. For instance, they might assume that just because someone is working a job that doesn't require much skill, that they're less intelligent or valuable. Or, if someone in their class gets worse grades than them, they might automatically assume that that person is not worth their time. This behavior is similar to the INTP's difficulty practicing empathy, as it demonstrates their inability to relate to others and put themselves in their shoes. It can also contribute to one of the previous points we talked about, which is that INTPs have a hard time developing close friendships and romantic relationships. If you're an INTP, knowing these 6 traits can help you understand why others might get frustrated with you in certain situations, or why you are prone to certain behaviors. Or, if you know an INTP, you can use these traits to better understand them and why they behave the way they do. So there you have it, the dark side of INTPs. Let us know in the comments if we missed anything. While you're there, let us know what topics you'd like covered next. As always, thanks for watching How to Charisma. Don't forget to like and subscribe.